So, an employee is off work with these recurring migraines. Every single time they take sick leave, they make sure to follow all the rules. They call in, they provide fit notes, and, they keep their employer updated. But over time, something changes. They start receiving warning letters about what's called excessive absence. Then there's a formal meeting under the company's absence policy. And eventually they're told, their job is at risk. Now, here is the question. Can employers really discipline or even dismiss someone just for being off sick? The answer is actually more nuanced than most people think. In the UK, employers are allowed to have absence management policies. These are designed to help them manage attendance fairly and, consistently across the workforce. So yes, they can monitor sickness absence, they can hold return to work meetings, and they can set trigger points for when absence becomes a concern. But here is the key point. Absence policies must be applied reasonably, not rigidly, not automatically, and not in a way that ignores individual circumstances. We recently dealt with a case involving a care worker who had several short-term absences due to a long-term condition. Her employer followed a strict trigger point system and issued warnings without properly considering her medical condition or seeking occupational health advice. On paper, the policy had been followed, but in practice it was potentially unfair. Now, let's talk about what employers cannot do. They cannot ignore medical evidence. They cannot treat disability-related absences the same as ordinary sickness without considering reasonable adjustments. And they cannot rely purely on attendance numbers without looking at the underlying reason for the absence. This is especially important where an employee may have a disability under the Equality Act 2010. Because in those situations, employers may have a duty to make reasonable adjustments. That could include adjusting absence triggers, allowing more flexible attendance requirements, or considering alternative roles. Another common mistake is rushing to dismissal too quickly. Absence policies are not designed to be automatic termination systems. Before any dismissal, employers are usually expected to investigate properly, consider medical advice, consult with the employee, and explore alternatives such as adjustments or phased returns. Now here is something employees often miss. Not all sickness absence is treated equally under the law. Short-term illnesses like flu may be handled differently from long-term or disability-related conditions. And that distinction matters a lot. Because failing to recognize that difference can turn what looks like a routine absence issue into a potential unfair dismissal or discrimination claim. We also see problems when employers apply policies too rigidly. For example, issuing warnings purely because someone has hit a set number of sick days, without considering whether those absences are linked to an underlying health condition. That one-size-fits-all approach is where legal risk often arises. So what should you do if you are facing absence management action? First, make sure your employer has a clear understanding of your medical situation. Second, attend meetings where possible and provide supporting medical evidence. And third, check whether your employer has properly considered reasonable adjustments if your condition is ongoing or long-term. At Blackstone Solicitors, based in England, we help employees facing disciplinary action linked to sickness absence, disability issues, and unfair dismissal claims. Because absence policies are meant to manage attendance fairly, not punish people for being unwell.